Hi, today we are starting a new podcast called Ecommerce Ascend. In this podcast, we will be talking how you can actually make your business and your e-commerce scale 2 times the revenue or 2 times the profit in 90 days, 3 months. Something easy, something really basic, something you can get a quick win in, especially in the world of e-commerce, of tariffs, and difficult times right now in 2025. Getting free wins and easy wins is something all of us can do and really start to get the momentum going in 2025, maybe even further. So, if you don't know me, I'm your host on this podcast. My name is Klim, and if you haven't met before, I have scaled many companies, 3 of them actually, to a big sum, and exited one for more than $10 million. One of them was in e-commerce in online fashion. I used to work with brands like Stefano Ricci, Mandelli, Zilli, Dolce & Gabbana, Hermes, Dior, and many, many others. I can name the names until, I don't know, 1 hour, because basically we had more than 300 brands and it was a really, really good time. I actually managed to have a team of more than 150 people, and we have traveled all around the world, mainly based in USSR area and a little bit in France. So yeah, let's start. So what is this podcast is going to be about? In the first episode, of course, you have an introduction. We will be talking again about easy wins, something practical, something you can do in the 90 days. So we will not be just talking about nice theories or maybe some things that you might not actually use in your business. I am, as a consultant for e-commerces, have known how important to understand the actual things that e-commerces need into day-to-day actions in order to scale, and we'll be talking right about them. I actually apply many of these tips and many of these things we'll be talking about in my consulting. So you're basically getting advice for free. And I think that's really, really good deal for anyone, even for me. I have been watching many podcasts like Operators and many others. So it just makes sense for me to make a podcast by myself for now. Maybe we'll get some more guests on this podcast because, there's so much value in e-commerce, so many things in just in business in general. So it's just good to have this interaction for me with my viewers, for viewers with me. Maybe you can even ask questions in the comments and we'll put it as a discussion topics for next episodes. For now, let's start episode 1. So what we'll be doing is every time, I'm not saying the episode will come out every 90 days, maybe a lot more often, but overall, we will have a better understanding of what we want to do in these 90 days. For example, today we'll be talking about many things. And I would suggest every time I speak about something for you to jot down what exactly you want to achieve in the 90 days and try to apply the fixed date in 90 days, right? What you have right now in Google Analytics, in your P&L, in your financial dashboard, anywhere else. And if you don't have that number, for you maybe the challenge for the 90 days would be to get this number, to make sure you start measuring, to make sure you start understanding why I'm talking about this number. And in the 90 days, you can go back and actually apply the theories and techniques and practices that I give you to improve the number. So let's basically put real numbers on a test, real things that you have right now, and try to improve them as fast as we can. So what do we have for today? Once again, I said introduction, right, to the 90-day scale methodology to double your profits or double your revenue, and also about financial goals. Because if you're an e-commerce leader, e-commerce director, e-commerce founder, or CEO, it doesn't matter. All you have probably KPI for yourself or for your business that basically just somehow relevant to revenue, maybe even to profit. And I mean, who doesn't like more revenue or profit? For me, it has been my main goal. And in all my ventures, like that's the most important things I have always cared about. Yes, cash flow is important. Yes, like conversion rate, ROMI, ROI, and everything like that is important. But I think like when you don't have revenue or profit, it doesn't really matter. You're basically end up in a very bad position. So first thing, what we're going to do in the first episode is to actually outline what do we have to focus on. I think that when you're starting in e-commerce or you have an e-commerce running, and we will be mostly talking about e-commerce who do less than around $10 million in revenue per year. And that's not GMV, that's revenue. Because for example, in fashion, the percentage of people who buy, or like percentage of revenue that people buy is around 30%. So GMV is usually X3 of the revenue. And we'll be talking about less than 10 million in revenue of sales, actually, that money come into your business. So what we're going to be talking about is how to understand your metrics, how to measure them, how to scale them, how to check them. And before all that, we have to basically outline what exactly are the metrics, what metrics we are looking at, and why are they important. So the first one we'll be looking for is conversion rate. Why do I think conversion rate is the most important? Well, again, apart from profit and revenue, which you all should have on a daily basis to understand, if you have a notification, you have a Shopify app on your phone and you're checking it every day, that's the most important thing, the profit and revenue, right? The third thing is actually conversion rate. Conversion rate is the basics of all. I mean, I just posted a YouTube video about funnels and like about why clients matter and how you can do and what you can do with clients. And I outlined some things, but conversion rate is like super basic concept. You have the number of users who come to your website, for example, and then you have a number of interactions or conversions or sales or actions which clients take on your website. And the percentage from people who come from the traffic and the people who do the act or the conversion is the conversion rate, right? Super basic. So what can be a conversion? In Facebook, for example, or in Google Analytics before GA4, GA5 transition, we basically had this thing of many different actions and you can put any conversion you want. For me, the most important ones are, and the basic ones is the click. First of all, the visit, okay. The visit is the most important. Then you go into the click. After the click, you go into viewed the catalog. Then after viewed the catalog, viewed the product. Then it's added to wish list. Then added to cart. All right, we're going from the least important to the most important. And then after added to cart, went into the cart, started checkout, checked out, purchased. Why is there the difference? Well, because the payment systems, for example, Stripe or Shopify Payments, actually disline some cards, not because they don't have the money in the clients, but because there is the fraudulent system as well as just bugs on their end. And so that conversion also matters. And I mean, it's a little bit more advanced, but once you go from 5 to 10 million in dollars in revenue, already like can double your revenue because those people have the most protective banks for the most richest of the clients. And so it's like makes sense, but just keep in your head that there is this conversion. Also, we have the GMV revenue thing. For example, the amount we send and the amount we get back. That's a little bit more operational, and we'll get to it in one of the latest episodes. If you can't wait, reach out to me for consulting or something. But otherwise, wait for next episodes where we talk about operations, because right now we'll be talking about the basic things. So again, we have the view, the click, the catalog, the product, added to cart, wish list, cart, wish list and cart is reversed. Then we have viewed the cart, started checkout, purchased. So why these conversions matter? Usually people look at the single conversion rate, and that is the actual views or the visits to the website, and then the purchase. And I mean, it makes sense, right? The benchmark for the industry has been, I mean, depending on your sale traffic, but usually 1% has been going to 2, then to 0.5. Because of the COVID, for example, it was 2. Then because of the recession in e-commerce market, which you probably know about, since 2022 to 2024, we had basically a recession where the conversion rate dropped to 0.5 and the traffic dropped. But still, the benchmark is 1. And if you're below that, you can work to increase it. If you're above that, don't be too happy. Based on the industry, it can be a little different. So again, check your industry benchmark. Otherwise, you can always improve it further. For example, there are geniuses of our space of e-commerce like Rich and Rotten and many others. Hex Club, so many e-commerces which are amazing. They are doing excellent work. They're testing everything, and their conversion rate is in, I don't know, I think they said in one of the episodes it was like around 4 or 5%, which is completely insane. And if you think about it, what does conversion rate help you? It helps you to understand why and how the client goes from the view to the purchase. And what do you achieve by increasing the conversion rate? Well, easy. You basically increase your profit, lower costs of marketing, improve your performance of marketing, and you have much more money to spend. Your customer acquisition goes down again, and just everything is so much easier. Why that matters? So I really liked what CEO of Reach Wallet said. His name is Sean. It was that in order to be in e-commerce right now, good product is basically mandatory. It's like a ticket into the space just to start doing something, to become an operator, as they call them. And I think that makes sense. And the reason for it is because if your product is super bad, your conversion rate on ads like CTR and your conversion rate to purchase is going to be awful. Again, CTR is click-through rate, just how many people viewed the ad and then clicked. So basically the conversion as well. So if you, for example, have a bad product, I don't know, a cup with a hole at the bottom, right? What you have basically is a problem. Your product will not be bought, right? You will have a low conversion rate. And if you spend, let's say, $10,000, you have a conversion rate of 0.1% instead of 1%. So you'll be losing by 10 times to everyone by benchmarks in the industry. And not only that, you will be spending more money, you will be spending it much worse, you will have worse time with any marketing you do after that. And just in general, everything you do is going to be much harder. So it just makes sense for you to start with a good conversion rate product, start with a good conversion rate, everything, and then go from there. Because if you don't have that, you're basically already shooting yourself in the foot. That's why conversion rate is super important. And don't be sad if your conversion rate is 0.1%. I've been there. My website, when I just exited, was 0.35%. And again, SEO traffic was insane. So that's the reason why I had such a low conversion rate. But otherwise, there's things you can do. Yeah, definitely. You can improve a lot of things on your website, and we'll be talking about that. You'll improve your offer on the product page. If you're a mono product, you can drive it by 10 times by doing simple tips. If you are a marketplace or something that sells a lot of copies, it's a little bit difficult, more difficult, but it's still possible. And I say it's like relatively easy as well, just a little bit harder because you need to invest more money into it. But otherwise, it's fine. And so don't be discouraged, but evaluate, track your conversion rate. I mean, I'll be coming back and back to PostHog, a great app that I use in my SaaS and my consulting for like tracking things on the websites. But there are many others like Google Analytics. If you actually figured out Google Analytics, you understand how it works, you understand how to use it, and it just works for you, no problem. I mean, not many companies in e-commerce now use this, so it's fine. Shopify has a perfect analytics tool, which you can also use, and there's conversion rates for everything, right? You can automatically track it if you're using a theme. If you're not using like a normal theme, you can custom hook it. Like you can put a custom hook on any button and it will tell you that the conversion happened. So it's not hard to do. You can search for it. If you don't want that, come to me, reach out to me. I'll help you with that. And overall, it's super important conversion rate. So the second thing we'll be talking about is average order value. So once again, even before average order value, I want to say that one of the most important things for you when a client comes to your website is to make him buy. You want to make the conversion rate for any of the things I just said as high as possible. Because you either, if it's lower, you're either driving a bad traffic to your website, like not qualified, not relevant, or your website is not doing a good job qualifying and driving traffic to the right pages and the right actions that you want them to do. So your idea is basically always to have as much conversion rate as possible. And that comes to the same thing with getting customer to buy more. You can either do it through conversions, right? Through optimization, or you can do it through other things like marketing to make the customer buy again and again. That we're going to come back to retention, but average or order value is super important when you're not able to do that, when you're not able to make the customer come back to your website. So what do you end up with is a customer who comes to your website once, he has a bad average order value, he will spend more money than he actually gave you, and in the end, you just lose money. And if he doesn't come back ever, you're never going to get your money back. And that's just a bad thing. So what we're trying to do is increase average order value. Average order value is just as it sounds. The amount of money the client has spent on your website in one order. What can we do with that? Track it in Shopify, track it in customer data, in order data, in product data. And how can we easily improve it? Easy. Ask with pop-up or on a card or in the product page or after adding to cart or injecting a checkout to add more products. I think Rotten does it extremely well. They barely sell a single pack of their candies. What they do is they actually sell you 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 or anything like that. Even there is like a family pack, and also there is the party pack, which is a lot of the Rotten candies. And the funny thing is they're always at top of the sales and the top of the catalog with merchandising. We'll come back to merchandising a little bit later. Also an advanced topic, I think, because not many platforms, even Shopify, provide merchandising out of the box. You have to configure it and improve it and actually know how to do it. So we'll come back to that. But just keep in mind, average order value, super important. If you're selling everything for £10 or $10, sorry, you're not getting as much if you can sell the same thing or to the same people for $20, for example. So yeah, just simple math there. The next thing we're going to talk about is customer acquisition cost. We already touched a little on it because of the conversion rate. I mean, if your conversion rate is good, your customer acquisition rate should be good as well. But there is always a trade-off. You can either have the conversion rate high with the high quality traffic and high quality leads, and sometimes or usually the customer acquisition cost or CAC is much higher for higher quality traffic. What you can also do is lower the quality or the actual parameters of your traffic, make Facebook or whatever you're using to drive traffic to your website a little bit less condensed, like less specific. So it costs less for you to get this traffic. Your conversion rate will also drop, but you need to check how much, what is the difference there? Are you actually losing money or are you winning money by doing this? So customer acquisition cost is a hard concept sometimes because there are so many moving parts. There's always the amount of actions the customer had with your business, amount of interaction he had with your brand. What did he see before the ad? What did he see after on the platform, outside of platform? There are many moving parts. I think it's just important for you to understand customer acquisition costs need to be as low as possible. And once again, in the world of e-commerce right now, you're not able and you should never strive to not make money from your first customer. That's just the recipe for disaster. If you do that, you're basically trying to freeze money in your business, not only in stock, which is already incredibly hard, right? You have to buy items. There is no drop shipping anymore, at least, in order to sell the items. And if you're also freezing money, not only in items, but also in things like, I don't know, marketing in Facebook, it's crazy. Because what if you have a person buying every 60 days? You froze money for one purchase in 30 days. You pray and hopefully the statistics show he'll come back in 60 days. You have frozen yourself money in the rate of 6% on the stock exchange in the basically interest rate. You can get 6% easily, right, in dollars. And it's crazy for you to freeze money like that because you can earn interest on that, right, if you put it in a bank. So always try to make money on your first client. So your customer acquisition cost should be lower, much lower than your items. I always say at least X3, like the customer acquisition cost should be 3 times less than the amount of money they pay you. I think it's the least you can do. Some people say X2 if you have a high profitable business, but I have not have the one like this yet. All of my products were X3 of the markup. Actually, I think that it's much better for you to do X2 and just focus on that and hope that the clients come back and happy with your service later and you earn basically free money after that on the retention. But customer acquisition is super important. Focus on that, track it on every source, on every ad platform, on every ad, I think it's called cluster, ad set, not cluster. And yeah, on every campaign, just track your things, track your numbers, track your customer acquisition cost, because otherwise you can run out of money really fast. So what else? We have customer lifetime value. Wow. Okay. I wrote that down and it's such a huge topic. It deserves probably an episode of its own because I think LTV, a lifetime value, is probably the most important thing in any business. And if you don't have that, or you don't have retention, like Ridge Wallet, for example, Sean has been very, let's say, happy and energetic on basically describing how his customers never even knew that they needed the wallet. And once they bought it, it just happens once in 7 years and that's it. It's quite funny. And I mean, they did a great job doing like other things, doing other products. But the funny thing is, most of their products is also one-time purchase. It's quite funny, but otherwise they can sell a wallet, a ring, and something else for them, but it's okay. All right, so what is LTV and customer retention? Okay, so LTV is the amount of money the client spends on your website in the whole lifetime of the client. For example, we have an email, right? You can always email me, right? For for inquiries and consulting, it's klim@hey.com. And you see me in your database, and you see that I bought, I don't know, rotten worms at, it's like candy, 10 times, 10 separate times. All of them were, let's say, $10. So my lifetime value is actually $100. I bought the item 10 times on the website and didn't come back yet. So my retention is 10. At least the retention order is 10, but let's think retention is 10. What that means is that I spent $100, which is my LTV, and my retention is 10, so I bought 10 times. Usually the way all the e-commerces work right now is you have a campaign, the main one which drives new traffic, and then if you have a retention, a possibility of reorders, you either have a subscription, which is basically a free money and sales, or you have a retargeting campaign, which makes people come back to your website and purchase and buy something and just in general come back to the website to check it out. So what do we have is we spend around 80% of the budget on getting new customers and 20% of the budget on coming back, like retargeting to old customers. Why? Because we have email, SMS, Telegram, direct messaging, calls, and things like that to work with existing base of clients. And so you don't really need the 100% to spend your money on retarget if you can. You better acquire old, like new clients, and then you work with other tools for old clients. But it's another topic. But otherwise, LTV, super important because you spend 80% to get the customer, and every single time the customer comes back, you basically already, even if you don't do retarget, let's say it's free. If you do retarget, like I said, for 20%, you're basically getting him at a huge discount. You're getting a new customer, like a new customer, right? Similar to a new customer, but the old customer who is basically coming back to your website and enjoying the product again for free for you or for very low cost. LTV is something you can manipulate, you can drive it, you can measure it, you can improve it, and you can have a benchmark in your industry for retention, for LTV. You can have a benchmark for what percentage of sales comes from the old clients, what percentage of sales come from new clients. Again, for Rich, they're not in the benchmark because, for example, they're going against Montblanc, Hermes, Louis Vuitton, and other small leather goods companies. And so for them, not having a good retention or LTV is crazy. Those luxury brands always try to have the biggest LTV they could possibly have. And so for them, for Rich, it's very hard to make a customer come back, right? But there are industries, again, let's come back to something we all know and love. Let's say Apple, their retention and LTV is insane. They have new products or similar products which they sell, which are really good and they just work. And I can come back to the products anytime I want. And they always are fine. They always work. And I just buy them all the time, right? I have bought around 5 phones and they all been just fine. So for me, it doesn't make sense. Why would you ever purchase, for example, something that is not Apple, right? And that's not just me, that many other clients, many people do the same thing. And for Apple, that's insanely good LTV, insanely good retention. They drive to make you come back, improve. They give you the shiny things. They, let's say, lower your battery, even though that's not correct, to make you come back and buy more. I'm already thinking of buying a new laptop. Why? Well, because I just feel like I need a new one. You know, it's M1 Mac, and I mean, it's a good one, but it's not perfect. So for me, buying a new one when they release it this year, it's fine. And the same for my phone. I mean, it works, but after 2 years, it feels slow. The battery is dying a little. And why would I not buy another Apple product when they have not disappointed me? In LTV and retention, it's a science, it's a craft, it's really something creative you can work with, and it has insane potential. It's probably one of the biggest driving factors for any e-commerce and anything you think about in LTV and in, let's say, direct to consumer fields. So yeah, I mean, it's super important to think about. And if you have not measured it, measure it, see how it works, see what you are, compared to benchmarks. And once again, I say a lot compared to benchmarks. How do you know the benchmarks? I just look online, talk on Reddit, ask your friends in the same niche or in the same e-commerce, or just ask ChatGPT 10 times and he will give you something. And I mean, always, by the way, don't just listen to me. These all tips are super practical. Try them, measure them, A/B test them, and you will see for yourself if it works or if it doesn't. Because if it doesn't, who cares if I think that it works? That's the same approach I do in my consulting. If I say something and it doesn't work, that's okay. But if I say something and you didn't check it didn't work, I think that's where the problem is. Because you never know until you try. Okay, of course, today we just talked about the basics, right? What you need to measure and how you can adjust it. Measure it. If you don't see it or don't actually have the correct metric and you don't check it weekly, I think you're making a big mistake. So, what do we else have for today? We have retention, I talked about, customer lifetime value, I talked about. Yeah, so the biggest bottlenecks for your wins. What I always preach for all my clients, all my e-commerces which I had, is always to identify what the problem is in the business. So my approach to business and my approach to e-commerce is to identify where the problem is right now. So of course, it can be that we are experiencing some problems in sales. So what do? I go into the sales division. I check everything there is to know about current situation sales division. Of course, I know because I check the dashboard every single day or every week, but I don't know the specifics, the people, the processes, the changes, things like that. So what I do is go there. I basically leave together with a head of department or just with salespeople and listen what they say, how they say, what the scripts are, what the problems are, what procedures are, what IP do we use for actually communicating with clients, what sales training we had for our team. And I just work with that. I improve that. I talk with them. I try to make sure that the clients are happy, that we're solving their issue. And I try to identify, okay, we have this problem, this number. What are the quickest steps to deal with it? I look online on all the social media. I watch all the videos. I even buy books and read them if I need to. I try to tackle the biggest problem we have. And okay, of course, my podcast and basically our whole thing is going to be about many different things, right? But for you, if you have a bottleneck in your business or you're struggling with someone, don't try to do something familiar or something you're fine with. Try to do something difficult, something where the real bottleneck is, because otherwise you will be forced into the situation where you think you're actually doing the correct thing of studying or being productive, but you're not solving a real issue. And in the end, you're just messing up with where the real potential is for your business, right? So always tackle the bottleneck and don't try to do nice to have things. Try to do real things in your business. If you have a problem with Facebook, go out of your way to know all about the Facebook, what's the problem is, what the other people are doing, try to look at the new perspective, go into the cabin and, I don't know, write about the Facebook ads and how you can change them. Just do everything about this problem. Because if you don't, the next bottleneck, when it appears, you will be still stuck on this one, or you will not have tackled it, and you will just have a snowball effect of problem after problem coming to you and just ruining everything. So, of course, it's just so important. So, tackling bottlenecks for opportunities is super important. Why? Because there are quick wins there. There are wins you can get straight away. You improve everything there very fast, and you're just fine with everything that happened with the business. Because when you get wins, you get results, you feel fine, you feel more productive, the whole team thrives, you feel better, and everything just goes smoothly, just smooth in general. So yeah, try to do that. And one more thing that I wanted to talk about is mindset and committing to rapid iterations, data-driven decisions. So that's just something that you have to, I think, feel in your body, and you have to drive home to your workers if you employ any. Of course, there's a new trend of not hiring anyone, but having freelancers still works. But all your team, even freelancers, should understand that the most important thing in life, in everything, is to actually have data-driven decisions. I hate, that's the word I will use. It's super strong. I don't like using it, but I hate with deep passion people who don't look at data before making big decisions. Of course, I think that gut is super important, and I always make decisions based on gut, but I double check myself. If the decision has a potential of making or costing me millions, how on earth I would not check the data? How on earth I would not try to improve my decision even by 1% in some way, shape, or form by the data? And I think right now, in the world of data being available everywhere, it's very easy to neglect it and be like, oh, I know the data, I know what it is, but not critically thinking, working with analytics, not working with analysts, or even ChatGPT to look at the data differently from a different angle, brainstorm and understand what's the underlying thing there. It's super important. I think I heard a really good quote yesterday that in the amount of information we have, in the amount of data we have, understanding the key data is more important than ever. Understanding the key KPI is the most important thing you can do for your business. Why? Because otherwise you will be forced on looking at many things and wrong things as well. Or there's so many things. For example, again, what if you look at number of purchases client made in the past 2 weeks and you make it the main KPI? Well, what if your website was down for 2 weeks and you only obsess about this data and it doesn't make sense because no one made a purchase this week, or your website was broken and there was like $1 items that should be worth or should be sold for $20, and of course the data shows that everyone just bought these items. Wow, amazing. But it's not really the correct data, right? It's not the correct things. And of course I'm exaggerating it as much as possible to show the point, but making data-driven decisions, I think, is the most important thing. And without rapid iterations, you can't really change and track and improve conversion rate. I mean, we haven't even talked about A/B testing and why it's so important, but I think that conversion rate will not improve and will not change if you don't do rapid iterations. Because what is conversion rate? Trying to change something, seeing how the client reacts, and then just improving that and changing it again and again, 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 and again, test, 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 and then you arrive somewhere. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this episode of our perfect new podcast, Ecommerce Ascend. And if you like that, I hope to see you soon. Subscribe to the channel, write the comment what you want to hear next episode. And if you would like to know more about consulting with me, I actually running a beta test right now for my consulting for new clients. And there's also a checklist with all the things we talked about this episode, on all the things you need to track, with how you need to approach business and with e-commerce, what you need to do with lifetime value, rapid iterations, data-driven approach, and everything like that. So make sure to download the checklist. And if you want, contact me in klim.at.hey.com. That's klim@hey.com to learn more and to speak to me. I'm also on LinkedIn. So let's see you next episode or next week, hopefully. Bye.